Well, in my last video I talked about this dual drive base that you could build. I put the files up on Thingiverse. And here I'm going to show a couple of the robots that I've built using that dual drive base. First one is the little Radicons. And the Radicon, if you're familiar, is a 1958 toy thereabouts that was radio controlled. It was a single channel. Used a courier tube instead of normal electronics for the radio control. That used a motor driven sequencer so that the single channel transmitter could make the robot do more than one thing. For example, you'd push it once, it could go forward, then it would turn left, then go forward, then turn right, then go forward, and then stop. All those add up to 6 sequences. So I wanted these to do the same thing. This one I actually painted in a wrinkle finish gray to look a lot like the original toy looked. But it's kind of a pain to get the wrinkle finish to work right, and it smells, and well, anyway, it's a lot easier just to print it in a nice blue. So I'm probably going to make about 5 of these and do them in this nice blue color. But the transmitters here, it's a single channel. I'm still using old technology in that the radio control circuits are basically 1970s type technology, and the late 1970s to early 1980s when a lot of the CMOS chips came out. I'm using some of that stuff in here. I'm also using the HBID drivers, the L911 OS that I covered a couple of videos back on different ways to hack them. I used the ones that I hacked in here so I could control them with a positive signal. So I'm using a 4017 decade counter which resets on the 7th step so I could get my 6-step sequencer. Anyway, here's the operation, and they both should basically operate the same. There's a small LED in the chest which will light when it receives a signal. Every time I push this button, it should perform a different function. And they're both forward, both turn, forward, turn the other way, forward, and I push it again, they should stop. That was the functions that I wanted out of this version. And you can see the eyes had lit, and that's because of we talked about in the other video, or the place for these 2 LEDs up on the top of that stick where that fits inside. Then I wanted to redo my Sonic robot version, which is a whistle controlled robot, but do one difference this time. On the other Sonics that I built, which were taller, it would turn as long as you blew the whistle, and when you quit blowing on it, then it would go straight again. This time I thought it'd be nice if it latched. So 1 toot in order to go through the different modes. And also, since I'm not using a tune chamber to detect the different tones, I went ahead and used the old school LM567 tone decoder. Again, late 70s, early 1980s technology. So you can set the tuning of that chip regardless of having a resonator chamber. And then I went to a flip-flop relay control. So theoretically, if you turn these on, they should do that. And theoretically, one whistle should control one and one whistle should control the other. I don't remember which is which. That was this one. Now let's try the other whistle. Oh, that's this one. I got the wrong whistle. Alright. So that means you'll notice the Sonics move faster. I use the higher speed gear ratio motors in this, and I used the slower ones in the Radicon because the original Radicon toy was very slow moving. This would be more fun on the floor because it's going to get up and move more. It's a little bit harder on top of the stove. But these are just 2 things that I was able to do with the small dual drive base. There's unlimited things that you could do with them. You could make an autonomous robot if you wanted to put in some infrared sensors so it wouldn't run into things, or motion detectors, or maybe you'd rather have it an infrared control. Well, it's just no end to what you could do. There's plenty of room to mount all the electronics in there. So I'd love to see some YouTubes of other people's builds of what they decide to do.